Hello everyone, just Gordon here and welcome back to another Planet Zoo real life inspiration video. Today we are looking at the ring-tailed lemur. Just like with the black and white ruffed lemur, we're mostly going to be looking at just dedicated ring-tailed lemur habitats, and we'll have a separate video for habitats that have all the different kinds of lemurs in Planet Zoo in one habitat, so that will come at a later point. For now, let's just get started with the first zoo, which is Dierenpark Amersfoort, and we could see already a sign telling us the rules of a walk-through lemur habitat, and there's also a sign telling us to not get shocked by the bridge, because both the railing and the grate at the bottom is electrified, so that the lemurs don't get out. We are going to be spending quite a bit of time at the zoo because there's a lot to see here on this really quite confined island, but there's so many cool views of the savannah from here, and we can see we have a big moat that it goes all the way around the island, really keeping the lemurs on here. We also see all these lovely barriers, there's all these winding paths, the netting going through the trees. I really do quite like the vibes of this habitat, but there's so much more cool stuff about it that we'll get to as we just continue walking this trail. There's this little weird kind of abstract art thing over there. Not exactly sure what the idea of it is. It looks kind of neat, but a little bit out of place maybe. But yeah, we can see the bridge that we arrived from. And as we go to the other side of the bridge, there's also this little viewing point over here for if you cannot go onto the island for whatever reason. Maybe you are afraid of the lemurs, something like that. Over here, completely different spot, is the backstage of them. So you can see what their indoor enclosure looks like over here. Really quite cool, lots of climbing frames, lots of complexity. And now we are getting onto a boat. A boat, yes, a boat. Because you can take this little paddle boat and take it all the way around the enclosure. I will say, I asked the people here if it was possible to steer the boat with only one person, and they said yes. I feel lied to. It was very difficult and almost impossible to pedal this boat on your own. But yeah, you do get some really great views of the lemurs over here from the water, which was definitely really cool and a unique experience. And not just the lemurs, of course, this boat goes past some other enclosures as well, but we'll get to those when we get to those videos. And what's also really cool about taking the boat, actually for us, is that we get to go underneath these bridges and really see how they are built, I guess. You get to see them a lot more up close and a lot more detailed. So if you're building a bridge, here you go. Have some bridge inspiration, I guess. But yeah, another cool thing, of course, we already saw it earlier, is that from over here you also get to see really well how the backstage connects up to the island. For the lemurs, it's just more of the same kind of netting things connecting up the backstage to this island. For the squirrel monkeys or the capuchin monkeys, which are on the other side, it's a bit more sophisticated, but we'll see that in a future capuchin video. Anyway, right now we are in Artis, the next zoo, and we are in the small mammal house, and over here is the lemur enclosure. This is all the footage I have of it, not too much. We don't even see any lemurs in this, but this is it. This is the lemur enclosure. It seems like the lemurs can even get on top of the other enclosures of the small mammal house here, because there doesn't seem to be any barriers at the top level there. So that's really interesting, and it's quite a nice enclosure. It's very lush. There's a little stream going down the middle. I think it's really cool. But yeah, that's all we've got for Artis. Let's move on to BestZoo over here, where we've got a very simple backstage, and we can look inside there. The window is very reflective, so we really can't see much of the backstage because of how dark it is in there, but we can see some lemurs over here who are really quite curious over there. But we can also see how it connects up to their enclosure over here. Just very simple mesh structure right there. Nothing too fancy here, nothing too much to look at. But let's just quickly move on from that then and go to Van Blanckendaell Park. Also a rather small zoo and a rather simple enclosure over here. Just a small mesh structure. Lots of ropes, a bit of climbing in there, but nothing much else here to take from. So let's just quickly move on again to the next zoo. This is Blijdorp. Blijdorp does have this really beautiful enclosure over here next to the Oceanium in the new part of the zoo. It used to be a walk-through enclosure that you would enter from the Oceanium itself. Over here you can see their backstage. All of this is closed off nowadays, but luckily I was still able to capture at least some of it through the fence over here. You can see it was a beautiful Madagascar themed enclosure with these fake baobab trees and all sorts of cool stuff. But yeah, sadly it's no longer a walkthrough. The path is still there, but you just cannot access it anymore, as you can see over here. Really big bummer. But Blijdorp does also have another lemur enclosure in the old part of the zoo. We can see it from the Riviera Hall over here. There's this big lake, And as we go to the other side of it, we can go over the bridge of Ravenstein, this beautiful bridge, where we get up close to these lemur islands. So you can see there's one central island over here connecting to a backstage, and there's 2 smaller islands connected to this central island with some ropes. From the bridge, you also get a look at the backstage over here. On a sunny day like this, there's a lot of reflection, so you can't see inside much, but there's just a lot of beams and stuff, as you come to expect in a lemur backstage by now. You can see how that rope connects up to the smaller island, and yeah, that was it for Blijdorp. So let's move on to Tierpark plus Fossilium Bochum. And over here in Bochum, we've got this, I want to say simple again. A lot of these lemur habitats are quite simple. There's just this mesh fence with a slight overhang. There's also this pretty nice looking backstage building, I would say, pretty clean on the inside, although we do have these cool kind of wooden pillars holding up the structure, but also providing some interesting elements to the indoor enclosure. On the outside, again, we can see this mesh fence with the overhang, and also a lot of lushness inside this enclosure. There's also a big tree in the middle, but sadly the lemurs cannot make any use of that. It is covered with hot grass around the middle part there, making sure the lemurs won't get up. The coolest thing here is this sign over here, which has some education even for blind people, which I really do like about Bochum. They have that in a bunch of places we've already seen, so super cool. Anyway, next up we have BestZoo, where we have this awesome little themed building over here with the indoor area. It does have a lot of light kind of leaking through the back there, but still really cool view. I also love this view over here with some food put on the windowsill over there, so you can see the lemurs a bit better. As you can see, this is a mixed habitat with the ring-tailed lemur as well as the black lemur, which is really quite cool over there. As we keep walking, we see we have a nice moat going around the other parts of the enclosure, and there's more viewing areas over there. We can kind of see the width of the moat over here. As we enter that backstage, we also see more of the enclosure. On this hot summer day, it was quite dried out, and what you can't see through that footage, so let's go back in time to like a little bit of early spring, we can see there's a little stream going through the enclosure as well. Really quite cool. Some educational signage about lemurs in general, and yeah, more views of this beautiful lush enclosure. Also going back in time, you can see that stream a little bit better without all the tall grass, but yeah, really quite a lovely enclosure. And over here in the moat, you can also see these kind of tubes going through there. Those are there to like aerate the water, to make like bubbles when it's freezing. It won't freeze over the moat. Also a cool little detail to add there. But over here at Harry Malter, we have a small walk-through indoor area. This is quite special, quite unique. Also not sure if I would approve of this, honestly. I think this area is a little bit too small to be a walkthrough. There are these backstage areas over here that the lemurs can retreat to if they want to be away from the people. But overall, yeah, also here there's a cage that is also a walkthrough, which honestly I don't understand how the lemurs don't escape from this if people open those doors too long. This seems very risky, but yeah, in general, I saw a lot of people petting the lemurs here, which I wasn't a fan of, and the people were very rude when I commented on the fact that they're not supposed to be touching them, because the signs say it very clearly. But yeah, whatever, it's how it is. Anyway, over here at Zoo de Lille, we have a lovely enclosure. I think we may have already seen this one in the black and white rough lemur video as well. It's technically mixed, but I included it here anyway because it feels more like a standalone enclosure, I guess. I really like the shape of it. It looks really cool, and yeah, I'm a fan. There's also some views of the backstage over here. There's this little shed to the side, so you can see what that looks like as well. But that's pretty much it for Zoo de Lille. So let's move on to the next zoo, which is Zoo de Maubeuge. We've got this really cool shape of a mesh structure over here with a ton of climbing in there, a bit of foliage as well, and a nice green grassy bottom over there. Yeah, I just really love the look of this one. I think we also had it in the black and white rough lemur video. I took some liberties in what I defined as a standalone habitat, I guess. The mixed video is mostly going to be walkthroughs with all species, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Let's move on over here to Monde Sauvage, where we have a lemur area, which we also saw this area in the other videos, but they do have separate enclosures at least. This is the ring-tailed lemur island over here. We also saw it at the start of the video with all the babies jumping around. Really cool stuff. The enclosure is pretty simple. It's just a very flat island, not a lot of landscaping on there. But I do love the fact that they have all these natural trees that they can actually climb around and explore, because the moat is quite wide and there's no way for them to escape from here. Yeah, really, really cool. Also like the backstage buildings over there and the little Africa huts, which from a distance look very authentic, but they are most definitely not. They're like very plasticky and stuff. And here, just one more view from the other side. What's really cool about the kind of structure over there at the water, all the way on the right, is how it connects them to the island. There's actually, it seems like the bridge is retractable, because right now there was no bridge out there, whereas with the other enclosures there was. Pretty cool stuff. Anyway, over here at Mondo Verde, and we are next to this water slide log fume ride type thing. There's the big lake, and there's a gibbon enclosure, and there's a lemur island as well. We can also see the backstage building over there, the little black thing, which is shared for both the lemurs and the gibbons. We can see the other side over here, what that looks like on the inside. Not a lot of climbing in there. I think that side is for the lemurs, because that's what this grey tube seems to connect to. We can see that this is a walkthrough, probably at some point. It was not when I was here, and the lemurs were probably indoor anyways, but yeah, the island looks pretty nice with all the trees and foliage. I'm sure that looks a lot better in the summer, but that's all the footage I have of this. So let's move on to the Allwetterzoo Münster, where we are in this beautifully lush bamboo covered area, and we're going to go through this small little gate across this bridge, which I'm guessing is electrified, to the lemur island over here. So you can see again just absolutely beautiful foliage around this area. Not that wide of a moat there, although it probably is a bit wider than it looks like, thanks to all the foliage sticking out over it. But yeah, we just got these nice small winding paths throughout. Climbing structures overhead, always love to see that. And over there you can see where it connects to the backstage for the lemurs. Of course, anti-climbing walls around there, where the land meets the wall. And over here it would continue on to a different area, but we're actually going to backtrack a little bit to over here, where the habitat kind of splits off into this area, where you have some views of other habitats. I think that over there is the squirrel monkey enclosure. I'm pretty sure it is, at least. Yeah, that's pretty much it for Münster. So let's move on to Dierenpark de Oliemeulen, where we again have a very simple backstage building over here, just this little shed. I do like the kind of playful shapes in the windows over here, and the backstage itself isn't too shabby. It's a bit messy with the gas canister over there, a bit odd, but other than that, it does look quite nice. And there is some climbing opportunities for them, especially also the mesh itself, of course, provides extra climbing opportunities there. And the enclosure is also quite nice. I like the lushness of it. The netting almost falls away at some points, and I like the fact that it's built up out of probably recycled street lamps. That's also quite cool. Yeah, because especially from this side, right, like you can barely tell the netting is there in the background. So pretty cool stuff. I actually do quite like that one. Next up we have Ouwehands Dierenpark, and we are at the entrance of the zoo over here, because right next to the entrance, before you even enter the zoo, you don't even need a ticket for this. You can see the ring-tailed lemur enclosure over there, right next to a statue of what I'm guessing is the founder of the zoo or something. Yeah, really cool naturalistic structure for the netting over here. And then some cool naturalistic climbing frames, some little shelters, and just a beautiful green enclosure over there. Nothing much else to see here. That's all the footage I have of it anyway, so let's move on to Pakawi Park, where we have this container with some lemurs on it. Very reflective windows, so I couldn't really see much of the inside over here. We do have a lemur in there though. I love the way that lemurs eat. And over here, of course, also an outdoor enclosure with some fountain thingies for reasons. And this climbing structure, other than that, there's not much else to see here. You can see the rope connecting the enclosure to the backstage. But yeah, that's all for Pakawi. So let's move on to Pantropica. We've never seen that name before. Well, we have seen the zoo before, but they changed names this year. Pantropica used to be the Orchideeënhoeve, and we are in this kind of outdoor garden over here. There's some flamingos to the side, but this entire area is netted over, and there is some lemur islands over here in the middle, so we can see the various islands. There's some outcroppings of the paths kind of going into the water over here, which I do quite like that design decision over there. From here we see some beautiful views of the lemur island in the middle. Don't mind the Christmas decorations. I went here around Christmas, believe it or not. This is not what it looks like year round. From the outside over here as well, you can see into the greenhouse and get some views of the indoor enclosure. This is not really the main viewing area of it, although I guess it is a viewing area because the path does lead up to it. But from inside you also have some views into the indoor area, which again is quite nice stuff. Next up we have TerraZoo Rheinberg. Have to specify because there's multiple TerraZoos in Germany. Right next to the entrance over here, right as you enter the zoo, there is this lemur enclosure, which was quite surreal. It's nothing like I've ever seen before, I guess. Just a very simple bit of netting spun right close up to the viewers. There's also some glass viewing over here, which is mostly for the things that are on the ground here, because you can see this is actually a shared habitat with some tortoises, which is pretty interesting. I think those are African spur tortoises. Super, super cool. On the outside, there's also an outdoor habitat, and it's about as simple as the indoor part. Just some mesh, some netting on top, and what's cool is you can see that big black tube going over the roof of the building, and that's connecting the outdoor area to the indoor area. Really weird. Really quite a interesting zoo this is. There was also a PFO in there for reasons. But yeah, that was TerraZoo. Let's move on to Wonderwereld Ter Apel, where we're in this little food area where we can look into both the outdoor and the indoor yard of the lemurs over here. The indoor yard is in this tropical greenhouse, and we can see that they have a nice bunch of climbing frames in here. The enclosure itself isn't all that tropical or lush or making use of the fact that it's in the greenhouse, other than the temperatures, which the lemurs I guess might enjoy. But yeah, on the visitor side there is some nice plants, and especially over here around these other enclosures there's a second indoor holding over here, which has some more lemurs, and then over here this is the outdoor yard. So nothing too special here. It definitely could be a bit bigger, but yeah, that's it for Wonderwereld. So let's move on to the Zonnegloed animal sanctuary. So these are a lot of rescued animals in this lovely little enclosure. Not the most extravagant thing, but for a sanctuary, what do you expect? I do like the wooden vibes that the Zonnegloed has all over the place, and I liked how overgrown this enclosure is actually. You got even 2 viewing points into it from 2 sides of the enclosure. I think there are in here with different species of lemur, but yeah, it's a sanctuary, so they take and animals will move in and out as space is needed or available elsewhere. Also a small view of the indoor area, quite nice over there. And then we're on to the second to last zoo already, Zoo Veldhoven. But we do have several enclosures to look at here. So this is the first one you encounter if you're taking the route of the zoo. And it's this big mesh structure, which used to be a walkthrough. I don't think it has been open for quite a while, but maybe that's for the better. I think this one is like on the verge of being too small. It's not quite like Malter, where it was definitely too small to be a walkthrough, but I don't know, could be better. Anyway, this enclosure over here, also quite nice to look at. It's not being used anymore for lemurs, but it used to be a lemur island, so pretty cool over there. And then we've got this pretty inspiring structure, maybe. It's a crazy lemur mesh dome thing with lots of more mesh around it. It's definitely interesting. I'm not sure if I like it necessarily, but it was a cool enclosure, so worth showing, I guess. And then we have the last zoo of the video, Zoom Erlebniswelt. Also a mixed enclosure between ring-tailed lemurs and crowned lemurs. And yeah, interesting mesh shape. You view this area from an indoor hippo house type area. And there's quite some nice theme around here. I like this small elevated viewing structure. Not very necessary to have an elevated view here because the enclosure is not that tall or anything, but it's still kind of cool. There's a little feeder attached to the elevated viewing structure, so also quite neat. And then yeah, some more view of the second enclosure. You can see there's a door in between the 2 enclosures. It's currently open, so the lemurs can move around as they see fit. But that's it. That's all the ring-tailed lemur enclosures I have for now. I wanted to get this video out before I go on my Germany trip, because otherwise it would have been even more bloated with more zoos probably. So I thought, let's just get this one over with. I'm not going to be taking any requests until I come back from Germany, because I want to basically avoid doing any videos on animals that I will be seeing on my Germany trip, because I would like to include the zoos from my Germany trip in those videos. So I've picked out a couple of animals that I won't be seeing or won't be seeing a lot on my Germany trip, and that will be the next couple of videos until I'm back from Germany. And then we'll probably start with a pangolin video, but it will just be a 1 animal video, so I can get that out quickly after coming back from the holiday. And then we'll be probably back on the alphabetical order, or if anyone wants to see a particular video, we'll move to that. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap up the video here. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to have your name featured over here and get early access to videos, basically watching them as soon as I finish editing instead of having to wait for the Wednesdays, be sure to become a member. I will see you in the next video. Hope you got some lemur inspiration, and bye bye.